Hello and welcome to the Adulting 101 video series. This is going to be a quick version video. That means I'm going to keep the video itself to 15 minutes or less, but I hope it'll be more interactive for you. Hopefully you have the notes and the follow-up activity that go with this. I'm going to invite you to pause after each slide. That'll give you time to write down what you've learned, maybe to jot down any questions or thoughts you have, and then if you're with a group, maybe you're at home with your family or at school with a class, that'll give you time to discuss the prompts in the lower left-hand corner, like this one. What's your purpose in learning about this topic? Well, our topic today is professionalism. This is part of the career preparation collection, and we have 3 essential questions today. Number 1, what does it mean to be professional? Number 2, how can that term be problematic? And number 3, what are some general guidelines to start with? So let's start with our big idea. Professionalism is a general term for the habits and behaviors that are expected within a particular profession. Now, every profession is different, right? So what professional is totally depends on what you're doing. Another way to think of it is how to not get fired. So that's what we're going to unpack today. That said, the culture of professionalism within any particular setting is often linked to cultural norms. As a result, if you tell someone or if you are told that your behavior is unprofessional, that can be deeply offensive, it can feel deeply personal, and it can be very biased. So our goal today is to establish what are some general guidelines that we can use to get off on the right foot as professional adults that are also totally accepting and open to all cultures and traditions. All right, so let's start by talking about professional dress. The concept of professional dress is so different depending on what your profession is. For example, a lot of jobs have a uniform for safety purposes. If that's the case, maybe you have to wear closed-toed shoes. Maybe you have to wear a specific jumpsuit or a specific apron or a specific name tag. Then that's what it is to be professional at that place of work. If you're a camp counselor or a lifeguard, professional dress might be a red swimsuit and a pair of Crocs, or it might be a t-shirt and shorts. Some organizations practice casual Fridays, so they might be a little bit more dressed up on Monday through Thursday and then dressed down a bit on Friday. If you happen to interview for a new job on a Friday, just be aware that the clothing you're seeing at that place of work might be less formal than it was on a Monday. If you have a special event for work, ask other people what they are wearing rather than just guessing. For me, I'm a teacher, so sometimes I chaperone prom. So do the teachers wear actual prom dresses? No, but they do dress up. You want to look nicer than you would for every day at school. Maybe you're going into a family visit for your business. Then there might be different standards about what you wear when you go to visit families. We have a rule of thumb. That means it's not the law, just a general guidance idea. The rule of thumb is you always want to dress a little bit better than you think you have to, and let your boss tell you that you don't have to work so hard and you can dress down, rather than being reminded that you need to dress up. All right, next, let's talk about professional speech. Professional speech also varies depending on what your job is. Are you working with customers? Are you working with children? Are you working with the elderly? Are you working with social media trolls and you're running the Instagram account for your business, right? That can all be different. But our rule of thumb, no matter how funny we think we are, sarcasm and jokes do not translate well across cultural, language, and age barriers. So if you are working in the workplace, it is always best to be sincere and clear in your speech. So you don't know if the person on the other end speaks another language and doesn't understand what you're saying, or they're older and they don't understand your sense of humor, or they're younger and their brain isn't developed to understand sarcasm. So we want to keep sarcasm off the table as long as we are in a professional role. Another rule of thumb, swearing is problematic, whether it's swearing at a customer, in front of your boss, or just with your coworkers. So we want to create a safe space for everyone to be, so we want to avoid swearing when we're working in a professional capacity. Next, let's talk about professional relationships. From the minute you walk into the lobby for an interview, you need to treat everyone with respect. A good boss knows that the way you treat the receptionist and the custodian and the customers, all of that shows your true colors. Then, until you're established in a new job, just be cautious about how you're communicating with your coworkers. You don't have to text them. You don't have to be friends with them on social media. Until you really know how things are working, you can just communicate with your coworkers through email or whatever the established mode of communication is at your work. Also be cautious. Just because maybe somebody has your phone number because you work together, that doesn't mean that you should be texting them casual things and when you're off duty, right? Like, try to stick to basic professional guidelines until you've got a clear indication that you're crossing over into separate bounds of being friends. And one other thought about professional relationships is you need to find things to talk about at work that aren't complaining about work. When you go to the lunchroom at work, what are people talking about? Are they all watching a sport? Are they all watching a reality TV show? Are they all engaged? Are they all reading something about something that's going on in the community? You want to make sure that you're tapping into those topics so that you're not just complaining about work drama with each other. Another important idea of professionalism is the chain of command. The chain of command is who you report to and then who they report to. And it's really important for you to know for sure who are you supposed to report things to and who are you not supposed to report to. So if there's an issue at your job, there's someone you're supposed to tell about it, the person who ranks above you. If you tell it to anyone else, that's gossip. You might have a shift manager or department head who's your coordinator, but they don't actually supervise you. It might not be appropriate to raise a concern to them. If something bad happens, it's really important that there's documentation that you communicated it on time to the right person. So let's say, okay, I'm going to use myself as an example, so I'm a teacher. If I have an issue with a student, it is not okay for me to go tell another teacher about it and name the student. It's not okay for me to go to my department chair and name the student. It is my job to go to that student's assistant principal or dean or counselor and tell them about it. And if somehow that's not serving my purposes, or maybe they're involved in the issue, then I'm supposed to take it to the principal, because that's the next person up the chain of command. It is not appropriate for me to share that with anyone else. Another thing we want to think about for being professional is technology. Whether we like it or not, we have to assume that every single thing we post on social media or type in an email or put on a computer could be used against us in a lawsuit. So you're probably going to be asked when you start a job to sign what's called an acceptable use of technology contract. And that will tell you how you are or are not allowed to use technology. For example, it might say everything you do for work must be on your work computer and you can't do it on a personal computer. It might say you are not allowed to have a side hustle job that you run on your work computer. Otherwise, that would be their intellectual property. It might say that you're not allowed to post anything negative about your employer on your social media, something like that. Rule of thumb here, before you press post or send, always imagine your boss reading what you just wrote, because any email you write can be forwarded, any post you make can be screenshotted and shared with your boss. Finally, one other thought to consider in being professional is ethics. There's a really good rule of thumb here. If you have to ask your boss if something is a problem, you probably already have your answer. You probably already know that it is a problem. For example, if you have an idea, you're like, ooh, I think we should maybe do this special display, but already your gut is telling you, ooh, that might go sideways. That might offend somebody. That might be getting too political for the nature of our company, something like that. If you can already see how it could go wrong, don't ask your boss to okay it. You are already figured out your answer. You're not going to do that. Find out a different project to do. If you think a particular response could be borderline, don't do it. Stay on the safe side of the borderline. All right, I hope this was helpful to you. Let's figure out if it was. Can you think of 3 ideas that you want to take away from today? What's one idea you have about what professional means in terms of dress? What's one idea about what professional means in terms of speech? What's one idea about how you manage your relationships with your coworkers professionally? What is a chain of command? Are you okay with that term? What's one boundary you might set in terms of how you use technology? Well, if at least one thought came up for those, then I'm going to say we were successful. If this was helpful to you, this is part of that blue category there, career preparation. This was professionalism. But these are all the other adulting topics that I have available. If you are going into your adult life and you think these might be helpful, check them out. And good luck to you in your new profession.